Welcome back. I'm Charles Lewis, the Austin area realtor who brings you topics and discussions that will help you make better decisions when you buy, sell, or invest in real estate. Today, I'm back again with my friend Jen Gunter, who is probably one of the most knowledgeable persons out there when it comes to purchasing raw land in Austin. Jen, thank you so much for coming back again, and good to have you again.
Thank you, Charles. It's great to be here, and I love helping people with their land goals.
Well, we're in the right place then.
That's right, that's right.
What I thought we might talk about today is if someone had a vision of wanting to build their dream home, at some point they're going to have to figure out where they're going to build this thing. Some people have a long-term plan. I buy it when I'm 30 and plan on living in it when I retire at 60. Others, it's more immediate. But in either case, whether you've talked to the builder, you've got those plans worked out and you're ready to go as soon as you close on the land, or you hadn't even considered how big it is, there are going to be probably certain things you're going to need to look at or need to answer before you actually get to the spot where you're actually exchanging, money in a transactional land deal. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yes. You need to prepare. Several things go into that process. Obviously, you mentioned talking with a builder. You need to get a sense for what kind of a house that you want to build. Mm-hmm. Do you want to build a stone house, kind of a traditional, brick or stone or something like that? Do you want to build something that's more of a barn dominium and fits in, in more of that rural setting, and it's like metal on the outside, but you can do whatever you want to do on the inside with it. And also like how big. So you need to have, some idea of what your goal is. And then that's going to impact how you find a builder, which builder that you find.
Oh, it certainly makes sense because there are a lot of builders to choose from, but what they're able to produce is the most important. If you have someone who does a lot of these barn dominiums, it probably makes sense to talk to them if that's what you wanted to pursue. The national builders, most of them have some type of build on your lot option. I've done a couple of videos with David Weekley. In that scenario, they have already an existing selection of plans that you could choose from. So in either case, however it is or whoever it is you choose as the builder, the size of the building, the type of building that you might be interested in building is going to impact the type of property that is going to fit with that. If I wanted to build let's say the barn dominium, but I find a piece of land that wouldn't work on, what would typically cause something like that?
Cause it not to work?
What are some things that I would need to look for to ensure that I'm able to build the type of house that I want?
So first of all, what type of soil is it? Are you building on the Blackland Prairie, east of Austin, that whole region there where those soils tend to shift? And so you need somebody that's really skilled in building out there so that they can put that slab in the best kind of way to help mitigate against future shifting of that foundation. Are you building out west in the hill country where now your problem isn't that you've got shifting soil, now your problem is that you got to carve it out of the rock out here, and is there a flat enough place to build, and how much is that going to cost for you to get that place flat enough for you to build? And so yes, the property has characteristics of the soil, the steepness of it or lack thereof, and then in addition the restrictions that might be on the property. It might be restricted against barn dominiums, like it might require masonry on the outside, or it might require that you have certain size, and so you didn't want to build a house that big. Or if it's too small, you don't really want to be next to people that are building little bitty houses, and so you really want the neighborhood that's going to require the larger houses. So all those things come into play. The restrictions, that gets more specific into, once you actually start looking at property, and you need an agent that understands the importance of getting those restrictions in your hand as soon as possible when you're looking in an area.
Now on the other side of it is that someone may change as they go through the process. Like in a scenario where it's like I'm buying it at 25, don't plan to build until 40 years later, I may change what I want to put out there.
Yes.
On the other hand though, if you do buy it and you have the builder and you kind of work that out, you certainly don't want to be surprised. So the more that you can know before committing to purchase it, the better.
Right, and you brought up another good point, that long-term hold on it. Like if you buy it and you really don't plan to build until later on, and then let's say your plans do change pretty dramatically, and now you're saying, you know what, we can't even really do what we want to do on this land anymore. So one of the things that you want to make sure of in those early stages is that, like you would with any other purchase, that you're purchasing it at the right price. Now, what's the right price? Well, you want to understand what the comps are for that property. And are we paying like what's comparable in the area? Are we paying a lot more than that? Are we paying less than that? And so the same way you would make a good purchase on a house, is this the right time for us to spend this kind of money? And knowing how that fits into the market of today is going to help you later down the road if you realize, you know what we really want to do is now sell this piece of property. Yeah. You did the best job you could on the entry level part so that you maximized your investment and your ability to sell it well 5, 10, 15 years later.
Well, that's a good point. I never really considered that before. That's a very good point. Thank you for sharing that. Let's sum up, is that if we're thinking about building a house, whether or not we're ready to go immediately in the short term or it's something that we're looking or more, it's a little bit hazy, right, as we look into the future. We want to look at the land. You mentioned soil. I'm glad you brought that up because it's for the most part east and west of 35.
Yes.
If you're on the east side of 35, you're going to have that blackland prairie, a lot of clay soil. The other way you begin getting more rock. And of course you keep moving west, you're going to have the hills that you talked about trying to build it on an uneven kind of like lot.
One of the other important factors is talking to a lender. Again, just like you would if you're purchasing a home. But here's the deal on purchasing land. You need to talk to a lender who understands rural property. And it's different than getting a mortgage on a house in that you may have to put more down. Many times you have to put 20% down. Now, not all the time. And the land is going to be cheaper typically because you don't have the house on it yet. But if you're building right away, are you going to be able to transition that loan into the construction loan? You need to have those conversations with the lender before you buy the land so that you understand what your process is from here through the building to get that building loan. That's a critical piece of it, to have those lender conversations and to talk with lenders who understand rural property.
Not to mention trying to time it with these current interest rates, where it's like in a couple of months it can vary so much. If I was in a position to purchase land with cash, when it came time to build the house, I can use that as part of the equity to finance the construction. Another thing about the land is that generally speaking is your cost of holding it. If it's going to be a couple of years, your cost of holding it is going to be significantly lower, generally speaking, than it would be if you had a house on it, right? With taxes and ag exemptions, things like that. So
if you have the ag exemption, and that's a great point to bring up. 10 acres is really almost the smallest thing you can have ag on. Sometimes you'll have smaller properties that have ag valuation on them, but having that property in ag valuation is really important for keeping your taxes low. And so you really need to understand that. Texas Parks and Wildlife has some great information on their site about agriculture and wildlife valuation as well. You can do wildlife valuation, and you have to, follow the guidelines to do that as a way of keeping the taxes low in the agriculture valuation range. You can do things like put birdhouses out and kill fire ants and create, put water out for the little critters, things like that end up being a lot of fun and very enjoyable, and they make your property beautiful because you're really encouraging the wildlife. So that's one of the things that you want to educate yourself about when you're looking at carrying a piece of land that's in the 10 acres or more.
I got you. But, well, I'm glad you shared that. That's a good thing to know. Well, I tell you what, I want to thank you again for coming by, because once again, I found this extremely helpful, and I'm sure a lot of people out here have as well. Before we wrap it up, do you have any other thoughts or anything you might want to share with us?
It's just so important when you're looking for land to find a land specialist. I had somebody compliment me the other day on my boots and my jeans. And I thought she was complimenting my boots and jeans. And then I realized she was complimenting me on the fact that I knew how to show up on their property.
When you walk,
that I dressed appropriately for the occasion. And so you want somebody who's not going to show up in their BMW and their high heels or their spit shine shoes. You want somebody that shows up in their pickup and their, with their boots and jeans on and understands what they're doing. It's not about the boots and jeans. It is about having that skill set of understanding what it means to sell rural property. And as a land specialist, that's what I do for people, and I encourage your listeners, your watchers, to find a great land specialist.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And of course, if you did want to reach out to either one of us directly, our contact information is in the video description. If you happen to have any ideas about how we might improve these videos or topics you might want to see in the future, please let us know. Shoot me an email or put a comment below. Once again, thanks for watching, and let's make your real estate dreams come true.